Hey guys, this is Eytan Rund. Thank you very much for watching. This is another short video which I promised would shortly follow about frequently asked questions that people ask me, and I do not have enough time to answer them on tours. So I'm taking this opportunity on YouTube to try to answer the questions or try to explain the things that I would have a hard time answering on the tour, because people have a little limited attention span, which is not as big as those brainiacs who want to actually sit down and watch things later on video. So I'm taking this little thing to explain. This is a second video. If you guys haven't watched the first one, you guys should look at not these really. I have a bunch of videos on YouTube, but you guys should look for the video explaining West Bank Explained 1. This is a continuation of that, just trying to take things in depth. It's only about I think 9 minutes long. If you guys you should watch that video first and then watch this video second, because it'll be a little hard to pick up on these things on this video without watching the first one first, okay? So if on the first video I explained the difficulty that Israel has, the left is afraid of demography and the right is afraid of consequences of leaving, I'll explain a little bit about the Israeli psyche. In Israel, when you would knock into a really much bigger guy, your automatically feeling is to strike back at him and punch him or push him away, and your friends grab you and they hold you back and they say, dude, Tieh chacham al tieh tzodek, meaning be smart, don't be right. And what we have here in the West Bank is a perfect example of how those two things can totally not work hand in hand. Meaning, you could be very smart and very just, and have a conflict between them. Okay, here goes. When I stand on the rooftop of Hebron, for example, I'm sitting in a gigantic Palestinian Arab city with a gigantic religious population who voted Hamas, with about 170,000 Palestinians. And all I have is about 800 Jews, and about 30 of them live on a building below this little rooftop where I stand with groups. And I say, dude, why do you live here? And if I would go and ask a random Chaim or Moshe, yo, why do you live here? The answer they're going to tell me is, it's just the first square foot ever purchased by a Jew was purchased here in Israel. It's the most just place, a lot more than Tel Aviv, a lot more than Jerusalem, a lot more than any other place. Hebron should be the place to live. If I would send the same guy, and I would take a random guy from Herzliya, who's usually not on the right, on the spectrum on the Israeli right, and I would ask him, yo, Moshe, what do you say about living here? He'll say, it's not smart. I'll say, why? He'll say, there's 150 or 170,000 Palestinians we're going to have to annex because of these bunch of kooks, living here in the middle of Hebron. Like, what are they, stupid? They want us to annex, 170,000 guys that might vote Hamas tomorrow morning? Like, hang on, that's not smart to live here. So the Israeli right, a lot of them live in the West Bank because they feel it's just, and they feel it's the place of the Bible, it's the place where the stories happen, and they ignore the population. And the Israeli left look at it and say, wait a minute, it's not smart. Now, very few people, you'll find 5 guys on the Israeli right that'll say, listen, it ain't smart to live in the West Bank, but I live here because I feel a strong sense of connection. It's what I feel I should do. Some of them don't even say, I don't know what's smart. I thought it was smart to leave the West, the Gaza Strip, and here we go. I don't know what's smart. I live by what's just. You'll see very few people that'll do that. Most people on the Israeli right will have to latch on their weaker point in their argument and explain also why it's smart. A great Israeli teacher once dropped his papers on the way to class, and a student picked them up, and she saw the paper on top said, your argument is a very weak one. Here you have to raise your voice. Meaning he knew he's got a weak. Every side, the Israeli left side and the Israeli right side, have to take their weaker points in their argument and voice them out louder. So if the Israeli on the right will feel a lot of them feel a very strong sense of justice, or living here is the right thing to do. They feel it's the right thing to do. It's just. They'll have to explain why it's smart, even if it has many aspects to it that ain't smart. Meaning, if we stay in the West Bank, we're going to have to annex in loads of Palestinian populations. And in the first video I hope you guys watch, you can easily understand why it could be very problematic. It could be the end of Israel. It could be harmful for Israel. If you guys take a look at the Israeli left, so the Israeli right, by the way, have to explain why it's smart to live in the West Bank. They'll build porches on Petuel overlooking Israel, overlooking Tel Aviv, and saying, if we don't live here, God forbid what's going to happen. Now, there is some truth to it. but the non-smartness to it might be much larger if we stay there, like in the West Bank. They don't have a solution to what we do with the population. Okay, the Israeli left does exactly the same thing, meaning a lot of them, or the majority of them, feel or think it ain't smart living in the West Bank. Look how many Arabs there are around. It's not smart for us to stay. But you'll find a handful, and 5 or 6 guys in all of Israel that are going to come and say, you know what? It's just, but it's not smart. No, they're going to explain to you why it's also not just. Meaning the Israeli left will look for injustices on an electron microscope and find injustices of a random guy who gets stopped at a checkpoint once in a while. They'll ignore Arab terrorism and security threats, and they'll just say, oh, poor Nebuch guy has to take, a long way around his house. It's not fair for him. And they'll find injustices, but the injustices are very small. For example, the alternative question is on us. Let's say if these key people really care about Palestinians' human rights, it could very well be that if we leave the West Bank tomorrow, which is something they advocate widely and all around, it could very well be that if we leave the West Bank, the injustice towards a random Ashraf or the random Marwan living in the West Bank will be much higher. Meaning, a lot of places where Israel leaves, then radical Islam might take over, Hamas might take over. There are many, the overwhelming majority of Israeli researchers and Palestinian researchers too think that if Israel would leave the West Bank, Hamas would take over. Give or take a month, a year, a week, let's argue. But if they take over, human rights and freedoms and freedom of speech don't necessarily go up. They probably will go down. Meaning, if you care about gay people, or if you care about people being able to be secular and practice their own religion, whatever way they see fit, that might not be the case in certain places. If you guys can watch YouTube, you guys can see videos of mixed-seating weddings, for example, where guys from Hamas will drive and say, we don't approve of this, and they'll drive by and gun down a wedding, and they put it on YouTube. Or if a person is thought to collaborate with Israel, they're not going to give him a trial or freedom of speech. If you tweet against Hamas, oh my God, you are totally in trouble. Meaning the people on the Israeli left, or people on the world left, that'll advocate Palestinians' human rights, might, if they really care about Palestinians' human rights, might advocate for Israel to stay in the West Bank and for the situation not to become even worse by Israel leaving. So there are about, 1% the Israeli right and 1% on the Israeli left who have not centralized. Meaning you have a radical right in Israel and a radical left in Israel, or very far right in Israel, very far left in Israel. They'll trust what I call, or what I've heard Micha Gutman call the 2 Gs, God and the Goyim. Meaning you'll have some guys on the Israeli left that'll say, listen, we'll trust the world guarantees. We'll trust the Goyim, the Gentiles, the non-Jews. They will take care of our security. You have about 5% of the Israeli right that'll say, you know what, we can annex the West Bank. Ask them why. What about the population? They'll say, well, we're here on a godly mission, so you can trust God to help us out a little bit more. Well, those two things, as Ari Shavit once put, God and the Goyim, are two things the Israeli Zionist movement tried rebelling against and saying, we don't trust this or the other, let's take our own future in our own hands. So the majority of the Israeli public, I think, is centralized, some more, some less, about realizing that even if we annex the West Bank tomorrow, yes, it comes with the Palestinian population, and that is a problem that cannot be ignored. Yet the Israeli left has centralized after leaving the Gaza Strip in 2005, thinking if we leave areas, we're not suddenly going to have some peace is going to suddenly break out from these areas, but very much sometimes it could be the opposite, meaning the Israeli left has said, yeah, but what if we leave and it suddenly becomes violent? We will not have the ability to react the same way we don't have in the Gaza Strip the freedom that we would want to, maybe as Israel, to react when they shoot Tel Aviv or shoot Beersheba, like they did a week and a half ago. So the Israeli left is centralized to the Israeli left towards the right, and the Israeli, and if on camera I'm doing it right, but the Israeli left has moved right, and the Israeli right has moved left, and that's sort of what's happening right now. Now I'll take 10 last seconds to people ask me, do all the settlers in the West Bank feel or think that way? The answer is no. Every settler living in the West Bank, almost every Jew living in the West Bank, has a combo of two things driving him to live in the West Bank: ideal and comfort. Some places the ideal is bigger, some places the comfort is bigger. I'll give you a great example. A Jew living in Efrat, for example, or a Jew living in Geva Binyamin, in Adam, might be living in Adam just for the comfort. It's a decadent society, or in Gush Etzion, the schools are great, society is very nice, and it's 10 minutes from Jerusalem. So people might be living there because it's comfortable. Maybe even a person's living there because it's 95% comfort, but 5% ideology is always there, meaning a person also feels it's the right thing to do. Okay, this is where my forefathers used to live, great, that's where I want to live. Okay, if a person ideologically was against, chances are you will not find people living in Alon Shvut or in El Azhar who are against living in the West Bank, like ideologically against. Meaning every person living there, it could be a combo. It could be 90, 100%. It could be 95, comfort and 5% ideology. It could be in Hebron, for example, very much the opposite, or where I am now in reserve duty in the hilltop near Tamar. It could be the opposite. It's freezing cold here. It's windy. It's hard. It's far. It's bad. It's everything. It's got all the harsh conditions against you, but people live here because of ideology. I mean, people living where I'm sitting right now in Itamar and Gidon on reserve duty are living here not because of comfort. They're living in maybe 5% comfort. It's cheap to live here, but about 95% of the rest is ideology. So every Israeli settler has those two things, give or take. Some places 50-50, some places 95-5. And by every person it varies, meaning some person will be a little stronger and more passionate ideology, and some people will be more pragmatic about how much it costs to live and say, okay, I want to live in this place or another. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope this video explains a little bit about even deepening the Israeli dilemma, I'll call it, about what to do with the West Bank, to stay, to leave, to annex, to not annex, to whatever, who lives there, why they live there. And I hope this video gets you guys to understand the complexity. There's no simple solution of, oh, just do this and everything's going to be great, or oh, just do that and everything's going to be great. Every step you take towards annexing the West Bank or leaving the West Bank will have implications. Those implications might be very, very dramatic, very severe, and the Israeli public fears both implications, yes, of annexing the West Bank and yes, of leaving the West Bank. We have a problem. Michael Gutman once called his book the Catch 67. We are in a catch right now. If you guys want, you can watch. There's a video I sent out about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I think solutions is a big word, but I think that if you go and you watch that video, it might give you some points to ponder on and understand why sometimes reality might be different, and if you think out of the box, there might be some, I don't know if solutions, that's a big word, but there might be some steps that could be taken in order for us and the Palestinians to achieve some sort of resolution between us. So I urge you guys to watch the video. And I think it's labeled the Israeli-Palestinian conflict explained, or how to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that I put out a few days ago, and I hope that you guys can watch that video and it's helpful. Thank you very much for watching. You guys can subscribe to my channel, and thank you very much. Till next video. Thank you.